Now we're going to go over how to use the table saw. Before you use the table saw, you first should have already planed both faces of your board, and you should already have joined one edge of your board. Okay? If you haven't done either of those things yet, make sure they are both done before you go to the table saw. The first step when you come to the table saw is, number one, make sure that the power is turned off, and then you're going to adjust your blade height. To adjust your blade height, again, power is off. We lift up the blade guard, put the board right next to the blade, and there is a wheel right on the front of the saw here that I'm turning clockwise, and you can see that it's raising up. And what we're looking for here, if you can see on the blade, is we're looking for the gullets, which are the low spots in between each teeth, to be just above the thickness of the board. Okay, so the gullets or the low spots in between the teeth should be just above the thickness of the board. Where I have the height set right now is the appropriate height for this board. This is the blade height adjustment wheel. Clockwise raises the blade, counterclockwise lowers the blade. There is a knob in the center that if you tighten it down, it will lock the blade in position. So if you have trouble turning it, make sure that that is loose. This is the control panel for the table saw. You can see that there are two switches and two LED lights. Okay? This should be pushed in when it is turned off, and this should be switched down. To turn the table saw on, you must first flip the toggle switch up, and you'll see these two lights go through a startup sequence. Notice the red light blinking. When only the green light is on solid, the table saw is ready to be turned on. To turn the table saw on, you pull out the large red button. To turn it off, push it back in. Notice that the green light is blinking while it is slowing down. As you can see, it won't turn back on while that's happening, and now it's giving an error code. Okay, if you see anything like that, make sure that the button is pushed in. Solid green light means you can turn it on. Okay, so at this point, you should already have set your blade height to your board, and the power to the saw should be turned on. Your next step is to set your fence. To set your fence, you must first lift up this lever. Then you can see the fence will move left and right. There are two different ways to set the fence. One is if you just want to clean up the second edge of your board. And remember, this one's already joined. If all you're doing is cleaning up the edge of your board, you're just going to move the fence until you can see that the blade is going to clean it. And then we're going to push back down on the red handle. Always double check both ends of your board, because sometimes it is not the same width, the entire length of it. And that should work right there. The other option for how to set the fence is if I know that I want to cut my board to a certain width. I can come right here to the scale to the right of the fence. And as you can see, there's a red line and a scale that's a little bit worn, but you can set it to right there's 5.5 inches. If I want my board 5.5, that's where I lock it. After you've set your fence to your desired width, make sure you put down the blade guard. And before you turn the saw on, make sure you have your board turned so that your joined edge will be tight against the fence. Always make sure that you have a person on the outfeed side of your table to catch your board. And after I turn the saw on, I'm going to stand off to the side of the board, joined edge tight against the fence, and I'm going to ease it into the blade. As soon as the board is all the way through, make sure you turn off the power and let it come to a complete stop. Notice that I stood off to the side of the board. I was not directly behind it as I was running it through. Also, be sure that you always keep a hand on the belt board all the way through until it is completely past the blade. When you're on the outfeed side of the board catching for someone, what you need to make sure you do is wait until it crosses the end of the throat plate, grab hold of the board and guide it out and make sure it stays tight against the fence. Do not pull on the board, you're only there to help guide it out. When you are ripping a board that is going to be especially narrow, or you just don't quite feel comfortable having your hand in between the blade and the fence, you need to use a push stick. The minimum width of a board that you can cut without using a push stick is 4 inches. So if you're cutting something less than 4 inches wide, like in my case here, 2.5 inches wide, you must use a push stick. When using a push stick, you're going to start out the same way that you do without a push stick, with your hands easing the board through the table. When the end of the board gets to the edge of the table, that's when you grab hold of the push stick. Notice that I did not take my hand off of the board while I was grabbing the push stick. Always make sure that you maintain contact with the board and control of it. So again, joined edge tight against the fence. Ease the board in. Right at this point is where I reach for the push stick. Make sure that you do not take your hand off of the board. And again, do not lose contact with the board until it is all the way through past the blade, and make sure that you have a partner here to catch your board at all times. When you're all finished with the table saw, make sure you turn the power off and lower the blade back down into the table.